Welcome to podcast 43. Yes, maybe, but yes.
Hello. Welcome back to podcast 43. It's your boy Chris Borg, and I'm joined again with my co-host Fulton Collins.
Hello. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope everybody also enjoyed that awesome special feature that we released for the 1 year anniversary. It was really something special. We put a lot of time and effort into that.
I guess we can talk about who ended up winning our 1 year anniversary.
I thought we were gonna save that for the end.
We'll save
that's
it
next
for
week's feature film.
True.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited to announce what it is that I really got ahead of myself. And I'm sorry.
Don't get too short.
Yeah.
Don't get short on me.
All right.
So.
Sounds good. But I guess without further ado, we will be talking about the films of Robert Bresson, or two Robert Bresson films, I should say, and also just kind of talking about the thing that ties his work together overall. This is something that I've wanted to do, and I'm happy that we got to do it. So let's without further ado, let's go on right ahead.
Let's hop in.
What do you know about Robert Bresson, Fulton, before we watch these two films?
I knew nothing. And I think I have kind of an idea of how he goes about making films, because of the friend of the show, Pate Duncan, which we had on for our Woody Allen episode, recommended that me and Chris watch Paul Schrader on Pickpocket. And I think that really gave me a pretty good idea of at least how he goes about making his films, and it's very, very different from what I was expecting, not knowing anything about him. I'm still trying to process how I feel about his movies as in general.
And yes, so something that Robert Bresson's films usually most of Bresson's films, are a thread that ties all of Bresson's films together for the 14 features that he made, is his use of non-actors for the most part, as well as his use of only diegetic sound. And so I do think that it's a interesting way for films to be made, especially back in Bresson's time, where he was working, where his contemporaries were a lot of the so-called culture of tradition that Truffaut would go on would write a scathing critique of in his essay in Cahiers de Cinema, where he pretty much kickstarted the French New Wave. And so it's important to remember that, Bresson was kind of the person that the French New Wave auteurs looked up to. His contemporaries were more John Cocteau and Jean Renoir, and he just continued to make films well into past the French New Wave period of cinema. Like one of our films is The Devil Probably, which was made in 1977. But
I can see why they would kind of look up to him in terms of like how he did things stylistically with his films.
And he wasn't about just adapting, just direct literary adaptation. Like, he clearly was much more concerned with how he could create a cinematic language. And
it's very anti-cinematic language, I would say.
Anti-cinematic? You'd say anti-cinematic language?
Well, it doesn't... I'm only building that knowledge off of what Paul Schrader was saying in the little 15-minute interview that we watched, where he was talking about how it doesn't really a lot of the scenes and emotions don't exactly play out in the way that you would necessarily think they would in like a traditional like film. You know what I mean? Like there's just to give one for an example. And there's a scene in The Devil Probably where there's these two lovers and they're standing outside near a tree, and she's like, I think I know who I want to be with. And he's like, oh, well, who do you want to be with? And she says, well, kiss me. And then they just hug. But it never cuts into them. It never goes for a close-up.
Yeah.
It feels very climactic in a way.
Well, I would say, when I say cinematic language, I would say he creates his own cinematic language.
Okay.
And it's a very transgressive language. It's not what his contemporaries were really doing at the time, and that's why.
Not like Godard or anything.
What?
It's not as extreme as Godard.
Well, not as extreme as Godard, but kind of paving the way for that. And because his films were mostly all adaptations, though, but they feel less literary and they feel more cinematic. Because I don't know, there's a lot of shots in both these films, in Pickpocket and The Devil Probably, that I think are very gorgeous, like those tracking shots of the close-ups of the hands when it's kind of showing the action of pickpocketing throughout the film is very lovely. And then there's that scene at the end of The Devil Probably where it's a bird's eye shot of them walking and you see their shadows, and just really the camera stilo, as Truffaut would put it, is very much on display in the films of Robert Bresson. But anyways, the big film that put him, well, he was in, and it's also important to remember that he was a painter that became a filmmaker.
Okay.
So I think that kind of garners some sort of understanding with how he frames a shot and the importance of that. But yeah, so the really big one that put him on the map was A Man Escaped, which Truffaut wrote very highly of at the time for his review. And I have a few quotes from Truffaut where he says that probably Bresson is an alchemist in reverse. He starts from movement in order to reach immobility. He screens out the gold to gather the sand, and that Bresson directs his actors by holding them back from acting dramatically. And I think
very much agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that last one especially. But yeah, so I guess without further ado, we'll talk about 1959's Pickpocket. What did you? Fulton definitely. I can already tell you that he was not as favorable on this movie as I was.
And ultimately, I don't dislike either of these movies. I can see why people do like them. I think ultimately, it comes down to stylistically for me. I just don't think he's like my type of director. But I don't want to I still want to watch stuff that's outside of my wheelhouse, because I think that's pretty important as just being someone that, likes to watch movies or be a part of any medium just to kind of experiment, which I wasn't going into these movies thinking I'm not going to like them. I just, I don't know, that just popped into my head while I was talking. But with Pickpocket, it may be a case that I just watched it at the wrong time, but I was so dead tired. And the film didn't necessarily engage me super much when I watched it. So I think maybe it was just not the perfect time for me to watch it. But yeah, I don't know. Just stylistically, I think that the Paul Schrader, interview that we watched did kind of make me come to appreciate his work a little bit more, but I still don't know if it's exactly for me.
Well, his his comparison to I found that especially his comparison to Dostoevsky, and the and with Raskolnikov. I'm so bad with Russian names. Apologies.
See, now I don't have to be the one to tell speak all the names. You can now bear that cross for me.
That's right. It was my one weakness, Slavic name. But yeah, the protagonist from Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment is very much the Schrader compares him, the protagonist Michel from Pickpocket, to him, and I think that's a pretty apt comparison, and also fun, and also quite funny because it's a pretty good parallel, I think. And so basically the film is about this man Michel who starts stealing money and pickpocketing people, and he just continues to get more embroiled in pickpocketing. But it's also very much a morality play about theft and love, and as a devout Christian, or as a devout Catholic that Robert Bresson was, it feels very overtly Catholic, especially with the ending. I don't know if you...
Yeah, it does feel very in line with, type of someone that has sinned so much. It makes sense that they would not only be punished, but come to realize the thing that they were missing all along. So I'm right there with you. I'm glad you told me that while we were watching it, that he was Catholic, because I probably wouldn't have appreciated that as much.
Yeah.
Without knowing that.
Yeah, it's very much. Also, Schrader does talk about how it was his character was a big inspiration for when he was writing the Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. So just a lot of similarities between both the characters, as well as Bresson's characters are much less emotive, and they're very disconnected.
Very much.
And that's on purpose. And I think it's no different in this, because there are scenes where Michel gets arrested and he just kind of feels, he looks very
absent
from any type of emotion,
He's like, what are you going to do, arrest me?
Yeah, what are you
that's
gonna
that's the type of mood he's got for some of these scenes.
But yeah, but I think it also kind of brings up a point about theft being excusable if you're in dour poverty and stuff. It's not very much like stealing bad. No, don't do that. More like, what are you stealing it? What are you stealing? And if it makes sense, then yes. But at the end of the day, the protagonist is more so just stealing because he wants money, or
I think there's a line where he said that he was tired of not being able to progress further with whatever job that he was holding beforehand. I was trying to think if there's no, we'll continue with what you're saying.
Yeah. No, that was mainly it. Just about how the films, or how Bresson's view of morality in the film, and how it's not as dismissive of it's more about asking why do you need to steal, and then also in the end it kind of shows that he kind of gets nothing out of it, and the only fulfillment that one can have is through human connection, or love, and that's a lot more important than material wealth, which is not this incredible like realization.
It's a decent theme to
but it is
a movie off.
I mean, it's a good it's a good theme. I'm not ragging it. I'm just like saying that
Been there, done
that. Yeah.
Type beat, yeah.
But one thing that Schrader talks about in the film is how there's rarely any close-ups ever.
Mm-hmm.
And an example that he uses is the part where he gets caught, where Michel gets caught stealing a man's wallet in walking from the metro, and the guy turns around and he says, "That's my wallet. You have my wallet. Give it to me, or else I'm gonna call the police." And there's no like close up. It's just a single shot, a medium shot of them, and it just kind of kills all the drama. And so, you know, these kind of editing rules make us, I don't know, it definitely tests our patience. I would say that.
I can agree. Was there kind of any final thoughts you wanted to put on Pickpocket before we make a transition?
Not exactly. Just you know, Paul Schrader just written so much about Bresson, and I would like to read his book where he writes about. It's called Transcendental Silent Filmmaking. Dreyer, Ozu, and Bresson. I probably messed up the order of which, but that's the book. And you know, he loves this movie. You know, Richard Linklater likes this movie.
I can definitely see him liking it.
Yeah.
I'd be down to do a Paul Schrader episode, not like a full-edged like Paul Schrader episode.
Oh, I love Paul Schrader so much.
Also, Richard Linklater too.
But yeah, so I would still recommend this. I will say that as far as like good introductory Bresson, I would say L'Argent, his final film from 1983, which is I think is a really good satirical film about money, and kind of it also.
I did not know he did L'Argent.
Yeah. And it carries a lot more of the themes of like what wealth is, and I think it's also very darkly comedic with like the direction that it takes it to such an extreme. It's also an adaptation of a Dostoevsky novel. But anyways, we're moving on to his 1977 effort, The Devil Probably, which is, I think, the superior film, because I think there's nothing more interesting than a man in his mid-70s making a film about the youth that isn't a guy getting mad at the younger generation for like 90 minutes. So I don't know. What do you agree? Do you disagree?
I mean, between these two films, I don't know which one I like more. I think this one has a little bit more to chew on to me than Pickpocket did. And again, like, just the base similarities between the two are like, you kind of have two characters that are a little aimless in what they want to do. But the difference between the lead and The Devil Probably and Michelle in Pickpocket is that in The Devil Probably, he has a very staunch kind of outlook on life, and it kind of, it messes with his head. He's kind of, twisting and turning about how he feels about his own, well, I would, because there's a scene at the end, I don't want to spoil anything, where he's talking to a therapist, and he's kind of explaining his ideology and about how, like, constricting it kind of is and how frustrating it makes life. So I think that kind of, like, his ideology is very interesting throughout the film. but I think I would rather prefer to watch Naked by Michael Lee. In terms of if I want to watch like a philosophical bad man
Yeah.
for like an hour and a half straight. But that's just comes down to like personal preference, I think, again. But I think this movie is more interesting. I'm still kind of on the fence on which one I like more. But I found this one to be a little bit more engaging. And it also has like a ton of the idea of like corruption and contamination is brought up a lot throughout the film. And I'm just trying to like find the answer to why that is all brought up. I just haven't fully like developed my idea on it. Because the lead character, his friends are like, I don't even know, like ecological analysts or something. They're like, I don't know what specifically they are.
Sorry, I won't. I'll only say the S word one more time. But the pollution that these like, you know, they're like these like political activists. The way that they did like the supercut of pollution and stuff, it reminded me very much of First Reformed. But anyways,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with pulling up that.
No, I know, it's just
the
it's
correlation.
Just straighter.
Yeah.
But anyways, as far as how they look to it, I just think that it really kind of captures, especially Bresson's style, especially, I think works really well in this type of film, because they're very disillusioned by everything, and that I think is the best part, is that his style, which he had been honing in for so many decades at this point, as a filmmaker that had been making films since the 30s, is still able to work so well in this environment of these disillusioned Parisians that are that literally like don't know what their purpose is in life, in kind of this just like bleak world that just exists. I think is really impactful.
I agree. It is very bleak, and aimless in terms of what the characters are kind of going through. Some of them pull towards love. Some of them become frustrated by love. Some of them kind of pull towards drugs. And then there's also the religious aspect of it. What was your kind of reading on the religious side of the film?
Well, it's there's that one quote where one of the characters goes, "We want to bring Christianity into the modern world," and then somebody goes, "Why not bring the modern world into Christianity?" And I think that's a really good point. It's just people that think that characters that think that society has just completely gone astray, and that they're the only people with the answers. Everybody else is either lying to themselves about like what reality really is, or doesn't, there's people that don't want to face the actual truth that there is a nuclear war going on, or there's that one part where they just like go to the college professor and they're just like talking to him about like spitting facts about like, oh, plutonium's worse than uranium because like plutonium can never disintegrate. And if the U.S. builds, are you scared about proliferation at all? And the professor says no. And they're like, if the U.S. builds 1,000 nuclear bases, the USSR will build double the amount. And like that's really scary. And like look at all this pollution and just like it's I don't know. It just contains so many multitudes about like what exactly it's about. And I think it also is very poignant to this moment. I think especially a lot of people are experience that type of alienation with the advent of social media and being like feeling like you like just can't connect to anyone because it's just like you're so everything's become I'm trying to think of the best word, but it, like you have all these like internet spaces, but you feel like they're just fine-tuned to like you as an individual, but you can't
connect physically.
You can't physically connect to people.
And COVID too has not helped with any of that.
Totally. But yeah. Anything else you want to say?
It was funny when going back to that professor thing, when the lead was like, "Don't come to school if you don't prepare to get schooled." You know,
yeah,
that was
true.
pretty
That
sick.
was pretty sick.
So yeah, yeah. I know. I don't think I have too much to say. On the devil, probably.
I just think that it's something that I'll be like revisiting incredibly soon. I especially think it's even it's just as radical as the films that Godard made in his New Wave period. I wouldn't say Giga Vertov group type radical with his late 60s 70s output, but surely the things that he says in La Chinoise or Masculine Feminine are just they just have more enthusiasm to them, while this just it feels much more bleak. And so I guess in that way it does make sense that this was made by a man in his 70s and not a dude in his 30s.
Yeah.
Because it's but at the same time, like I said, he still has, there's still like a connection to it still feels like he understands the youth and doesn't feel like, doesn't dismiss them, and I think that's why The Devil Probably is so good. But yeah, so like that is those are our two Bressons, and I would highly implore you to check out The Devil Probably too. I think it's especially with things that I really like, it's kind of the convergence of cinema and politics into one really interesting polemic on consumerism and just society at large. So, I don't know if
I'll say sure. I'll give him the sure mark, a new mark for me, because I don't want to recommend them, and I think they do offer some type of insight. They are different from most of everything else that I've seen, or they just feel different. So yeah, no, I'll give a seal of approval to check it out, because it is different, and might just be something out of your wheelhouse. So
yeah, maybe you too are a disillusioned Parisian leftist, which I know that is the largest contingent of our podcast listener base.
It is.
But
contrary to what our statistics say.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess moving gears, we will have an ad break, and then me and Fulton will be talking about what
Free Guy.
Oh yeah, well, we got to hear what you have to say about Free Guy. And I did not watch any new releases. At least I got halfway through Reminiscence, but I'm not counting that one. All right.
Okay, and we're back.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna write down this timestamp really quick. So Free Guy, yeah, I finally
bit the bullet.
Yeah, I don't want to say I went against my will, but I had some friends come visit me, and they really wanted to see Free Guy because they thought it would be funny, but not in the term, not defined by the way the film wants to be funny, but the fact that it's, so unfunny that it becomes funny. I can really attribute that, sentence to it. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it time and time before. I'm not a big Ryan Reynolds fan, so this one was painful to get me to agree to. But I took one for the team. I said, whatever, it'll be fine. And yeah, I mean, the movie's pretty bad. I don't think I have too much to add on to it to what Chris has already said, but I do find it funny. Just how I mean, like, there's a ton of plot holes. Like, the main film can be undone with one kind of question, I feel like. And just because the movie's been out, spoiler alert, I'll just like hop into it. But I don't understand the point of these two indie developers made this game called Life Itself that creates AI for all the NPCs, so it can be a constantly evolving thing. And it's bought out by Taika Waititi, and he turns it into this whole, free city, this like, GTA-esque type simulation game. And their game is hidden within the game. So they need to find proof of that game. And this one streamer has a clip of it, but the clip is hidden within the game for some reason, which makes no sense to me because, I mean, if he's a streamer the way that he is and he's streaming, that means that the game itself would have already been shown to the people that he was streaming it to.
You don't have to worry about that.
I mean, I know I'm probably looking too far into it, and it's supposed to just be like a blockbuster and whatever, but I mean, it just doesn't logically make any sense. But I mean, if you want to turn your brain off, you can watch it. I mean,
yeah, if you want to turn your brain off, like the people at Disney want you to do, so you don't realize that this is an evil film.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's just not. I mean, I don't know. It also feels kind of cheap in a lot of regards, and I honestly the two things that I liked about it were Channing Tatum. I thought he was funny in his scenes, and I also like Taika Waititi, even though what his character represents is so it's just kind of funny when you're talking about what the film is trying to say. And I also want to say, because I like Joe Keery, or the Stranger Dudes, the Stranger Things dude. If you want to see a movie from him that came out this year, it's not my favorite of the year, but check out Spree. It's more interesting than this one. And I'm not super crazy about Spree, but at least it's like an interesting experiment. So yeah, that's all I have to say for Free Guy.
All right, well,
so
thank you for your review.
My oh my god.
Well, and what were you gonna say?
Gillis. Oh my god, I can't say this fucking word. Due diligence.
Due diligence.
Due diligence. Yes,
Okay.
thank you. I don't know why I was tripping over that so hard. Fuck. I gone so long without messing up something. I thought.
Well,
It's okay.
If you guys are eagerly anticipating us to talk about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings next week, then you may be disappointed.
Yeah.
But who knows? The world works in mysterious ways, and
yeah, I swore I would not say Free Guy, and here I am.
yeah. But you can expect at least a Candyman review.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully from the both of us.
I do want to see it. Just things have been busy for me and Chris, so it's been a little bit hard to get to the theater. Well, I had people in town, so that's why we went to go to the movie theater. But Chris, what's your top 3 pickings?
My top 3 movies that I've watched. Top 3 films, actually. 'Cause we don't watch movies here. Flicks.
My flick picks. My
My
flick
flick
picks
picks.
for the week.
I would say that for sure my number 3 this week was Samuel Fuller's White Dog, which came out in 1982, and it's a Sam Fuller movie that was made in 1982, so it feels like a studio film from the 50s that also is very outside of a standard studio picture, but it was made much later in the life cycle of Hollywood, which makes it kind of an interesting spectacle. Also, it was famously shelved by Paramount because there was a lot of controversy where people were saying that this film was actually racist, and they never released it in American cinemas, and they just released it in Europe, and then it just kind of sat around. I believe they played it on TV, but it didn't get a home media release until Criterion, in America at least, until Criterion did one in 2008. But that is actually far from the truth, because it's an anti-racist film that Samuel Fuller made about a dog that is a white dog, as he calls it, and they're dogs that are trained to attack black people, and it's about training this dog and getting the racism out of this dog. It's obviously it's very much goes heavy on the metaphors, which is what I mean about it feeling like a studio picture, even though it came out like in the Reagan administration. But there's just a lot of powerful imagery. There's just really a lot to be said about Fuller's cultural thesis, or central thesis of the film, and how it just is like how it was completely misunderstood to the point where like Paramount was actually like just like, we don't even want to like put this out, and there are like people in this, like Burl Ives is in this movie, and Ennio Morricone did the music, so like I mean but yeah, really seek this one out. I will for sure be picking up the unfortunately Criterion hasn't done a Blu-ray release, and knowing what Paramount's doing with their movies, I highly doubt that, so I'll probably just get the
DVD.
No, Eureka did a release in the UK on Blu-ray, but yeah, it's, and then
yeah, we're region free.
Yeah,
boys.
We're region free. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, come after us, Blu-ray manufacturers. And number 2 on the list is JPEG Mafia's The Ghost Pop Tape, which is a visual album by rapper JPEG Mafia. It's a very, very sad. I'm
trying to keep Chris on his toes.
I'm only familiar with his. I was only familiar with his cousin PNG Mafia.
Understandable.
But this is a visual album with tracks from his 2013 mixtape, and there's a lot of other. It's just kind of it's actually kind of similar to The Devil, probably. I would say that there's a lot of similarities with the amount of disassociation going on, and it's just kind of like flipping between channels. It's got kind of this magnetic tape aesthetic. I don't really want to give much else away other than I think that people should check it out. I think that even if you're not a big fan of JPEG Mafia's music, you can still get a lot out of it as a piece of art, and
hopefully it will inspire you to check out his music, because he's got some really good albums.
Yeah, definitely. And number 1, and I knew this was going to be my number 1 as soon as I watched it, because I was like, there's nothing else that I'll be able to watch that will top this, is the D.A. Pennebaker documentary from 1967, Bob Dylan, Don't Look Back. It's easily the best documentary about I think the best documentary about a musical artist, because uh, Dylan is kind of kicks back or just like pushes back against like how the media portrays him at that moment in his life as like kind of this voice of a generation and all this, and he humbles himself as just saying, I just write songs, like I don't really know, I don't really care, honestly. It's just kind of, it's very if anyone had seen this documentary and still was surprised that Bob Dylan didn't go to his own Nobel Prize ceremony but would go on an episode of Pawn Stars, then I think that you are probably the densest person in the world, because it's clear that he's always been an iconoclast. Like he doesn't care about like how much praise you shower him. He just like there's a scene at the end of the film where he just totally lays out this Time magazine reporter, pretty much insulting Time magazine as a publisher, and like how he doesn't, he says like, you know, something along the lines of, you know, if I would never go to Time magazine to like actually get the news, or like never read Newsweek to get the news. Like I only flip through your magazine when I'm like on a plane and I have nothing better to do. And if you wanted to look for the news, I'm not going to find it in Time magazine. Yeah, I mean, you know, you get the iconic opening where he does Subterranean Homesick Blues with the note card, or the note cards. That's, you know, obviously just very cool. And Pennebaker is one of the undisputed kings of filmmaking overall, because I think his disconnected filmmaking style is just I think it's just a really great way to tell a story and to kind of show people for what it is. Like I'll say it a million times because I just want people to like make sure, but like documentaries are like just as valid as a form of storytelling and filmmaking as any other type of filmmaking. And like I think it's really annoying, and I mean it's understandable though that people just always think that it's just stock B-roll talking head, because that shit's boring, and I don't blame you, but like there's a lot of great stuff out there, and documentary is also a mode of filmmaking, and it's not a fucking genre, so we can also stop doing that too.
Have you seen the Rolling Thunder review?
I was kind of lukewarm on that one, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
I think it actually kind of falls more into that category, where it's B-roll talking head. Yeah. Like I think that era of Dylan's career is really interesting. I think that Desire is one of my favorite albums by him, especially considering that it was the one that he made before he did a big heel turn into the world of evangelical Christianity for 3 years or so. But yeah, I don't know, man. That was just, it's also like kind of...
Well, there's also like Allen Ginsberg is a huge part of it too, and it just never really like engaged me either, that one.
There is a funny part though in Don't Look Back where they ask Bob Dylan, or one of the reporters asked Bob Dylan if he's like Christian or something, and he's like, nah, I never read the Bible. It's like, yeah, just
times would change.
Yeah.
Then there's also No Direction Home too. I've got like an hour into that one.
Yeah, that's the Scorsese one.
Yeah. It's like 9 or 10 hours or something.
Yeah, well, I've brought this up to Fulton yesterday, but while I think that Dylan has an interesting collection of films about him, I will say that the one that I really want to the person that I really want to cover, or the group that I really want to cover, is the stuff that people have made about the Rolling Stones, their concert films, because there's kind of a lot of just the artistic direction that a lot of them take, or the people that have helmed them, is quite impressive. You know, you have Jean-Luc Godard, you have the Maisels brothers, and then you also have a Martin Scorsese documentary. But yeah, well, what about your top 3, Fulton?
These are in no like particular order, but I'll start off with Rear Window because I think I have like the least to say about it. You know, and it's a classic from Hitchcock. This is probably like I had to watch it for film class, and I think this was my 3rd viewing of seeing it in a classroom, and also like maybe like my 5th or 6th viewing of seeing it just like regularly. And I don't think I'm as crazy about the film as I used to be, just because I've seen it a lot, but I can still really like appreciate it for what it is. And like the difference between this viewing and the previous ones is I hadn't realized how big, I don't know why I took James Stewart for being more charming in the past watches, but I really liked Cary Grant. Right? No, Grace Kelly. Sorry,
Cary.
I think of Cary Grant. We've just been talking about a lot of Hitchcock films.
If the movie was literally about how Cary Grant really wanted to have sex with Jimmy Stewart,
it'd be really good. It'd be very interesting. Grace Kelly. I found her to be way. I was very interested in her story, because I had forgotten or had not really picked up on. I don't know how, but how like mean James Stewart can be, in that movie sometimes. But then I'll do. Beavis and Butthead Do America. I had a chance to rewatch this when I've seen it. This is probably my 3rd or 4th time seeing it. And I just wanted to show, well, actually the friends that I was talking about, they came in town. We talked about rewatching this one, and so we just kind of did it in the spur of the moment type thing. And man, I love this film, but I can completely understand why people like hate Beavis and Butthead, because it is just so mind-numbingly dumb, and it's just very, very stupid. But I mean, there's some great scenes there. Like the desert scene is particularly my favorite, where they meet their fathers, but the father doesn't connect the clues, and neither do Beavis and Butthead.
That reminds me of when I watched Beavis and Butthead Do America. I forget what I watched before then, but it was me and my then girlfriend at the time. We wanted something to watch to kind of like wind down or something. No, this was so we watched Raging Bull, and I don't know why.
Interesting.
We watched Raging Bull, and I was like, I don't know, I just didn't really feel that one too much. I don't know if I was in the right mood. I'd never seen it before, actually. And then we were like, let's watch Beavis and Butthead Do America now, and that was like much better. in that moment, at least.
I mean, mood is a big thing when you want to sit down for like an hour and 30 and just hear 2 teenagers giggle and make like sex jokes.
Make like the most juvenile sex jokes imaginable.
And there's a Blu-ray release apparently coming out next month.
So yeah.
So keep your eyes out for that one.
Okay.
And lastly, I saw it was leaving Amazon Prime in 7 days, so I was like, all right, well, now's the time to watch it. And I watched Mallrats, the hit Kevin Smith Clerks follow-up.
Oh, right? So it was only Amazon that was convincing you to watch it, and nobody else.
It was the kind words of my co-host Chris. That was also a swaying factor in it, and I was like, well, you know what, this I don't want something. I was trying to kill some time. I didn't want something too heavy, and I just kind of wanted to just have like a pleasant viewing experience. I don't know if this is a film that you really go to when you want to feel pleasant, but it's definitely a fun and interesting time. You've got cameos from Stan Lee. There's a ton of comic book references, juvenile humor. and I think you put it best when you kind of called it one of the quintessential like 90s films, and that is just like I love like a lot of the feelings and atmosphere of a lot of like 90s films, and so like
and nobody hangs out at malls anymore too. So
yeah, it's kind of and myself, I would go to the mall with a lot of my buddies when we would get bored. I don't think I hung out at the mall enough to call myself a mall rat, but when we got bored, we would hit up the two malls that were in my hometown. So I can kind of relate to kind of aimlessly like wandering around the mall and just kind of talking about life and talking about interest and current stuff going on in your life personally.
Yeah.
So it also hits on like a personal level, which I found to be quite nice. Jay and Silent Bob, I'm not completely sold on yet.
Well, you do understand that Jay and Silent Bob have been incremental in saving
in Degrassi.
Oh no, they're in Degrassi. Did they have a cameo in Degrassi?
They were in multiple episodes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you don't like them? Are you saying
Well,
that
do you remember the
in
Drake music video where Jay and Silent Bob show up?
Are you kidding me?
I'm being 100% real.
You're fucking.
No, you can look it up. There's a Drake music video where they're like he gets like a ton of his co-stars from Degrassi, and Jay and Silent Bob are in it. This does sound like a bit I would make up. I know how unbelievable it is.
This is amazing. Yeah, Fulton's actually telling the truth. Jay and
Kevin
Silent
Smith
Bob
directed an episode too.
I like this article. Jay and Silent Bob are back thanks to Drake.
I mean, hey, if anyone was gonna do it, why not Drake?
Drake's "I'm Upset." Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, anyways, I think that Jay and Silent Bob are a lovely comedic duo that Fulton just hasn't seen enough.
I want to watch Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. That's a good one. Also, their role in Dogma, they actually saved the world. So maybe you should be thanking Jay. And Silent Bob.
I should. I mean, I also recognize that Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes are quite early in their acting career in Mallrats, so maybe with time they've gotten better at kind of carrying those characters.
I mean, Kevin Smith and his acting is it's nothing special.
Yeah, I know.
There's a reason why he's Silent Bob.
That is true.
You know the reason why he became the only reason why there is Jay and Silent Bob is because for some reason. In order to get the film made, like this is what I remember hearing this a while ago when I was really into Kevin Smith. They said that there needed to be like 4 characters in the film in Clerks. So then he was just like, all right, well, I'll just play one of the characters, but I don't want to talk because I'm not a good actor. So play
to your strengths,
Yeah, I mean he does have one of the best lines in Clerks. But nonetheless, these characters have stood the test of time. They
truly have.
Everyone
coming hot off the heels of the reboot.
Don't remind me.
Chugging right into Clerks 3. The trilogy to end all trilogies.
But yeah, so I guess we can announce next week's episode because
all right, guys, Chris is very excited.
It was thanks to listeners and fans like you. We were able to
have a little bit of audience participation
because we asked the community in Discord what film they would like to see us cover, and then they would nominate things, and then they would vote on them in a Google form. And the film that ended up winning is the Martin Short film Jiminy Glick in La La Wood from 2004, directed by Vadim Jean, who it seems like he hasn't directed anything else that I'm really familiar with.
I was checking just to make sure.
Yeah, no.
If it had changed, it has not.
But Thank you, listeners. I know who you are, who voted for this movie and who nominated it, and I just want to say that
see you in hell.
Yeah, see you in hell. I watched this film last year for the first time, and I genuinely think it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. So I'm really looking forward to talking about it again. And a good friend of mine and the person that nominated this film will be on to talk about it with us because he deserves to be punished.
Held accountable.
Yeah, and held accountable.
I promise for future Discord decides, if you're the one that submitted it, you don't have to come on the podcast. This is just an interpersonal conflict that Chris has to face. Yeah. And I'll play referee.
Yeah, I'm facing my own demons, and that's all right.
But we plan to do this at the beginning of each month. So if you haven't joined the Discord already, we're trying to keep it active. And so this is kind of one of the ways that we would like to do that. So come talk films, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. Post photos of your Blu-ray and DVD hauls.
Talk about
music videos. There's a music video section.
Talk about your favorite Jiminy Glick interviews.
Exactly. Talk about your favorite Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. I'll be throwing some in there soon.
I will be watching some Jiminy Glick interviews to get ready for this week. That's for sure. That's for certain. But all right, so I guess that's all we have for you today. So I hope you have a great rest of your week, and stay wavy.
Stay safe, and see you next week.
Beyond your deepest fears and darkest nightmares comes Hollywood's greatest terror.
I'm going off to meet some movie stars.
The biggest butt in Butte, Montana.
You are going to the Toronto Film Festival.
I'm going.
Is going Hollywood.
We're going all night, yeah, 'cause it's
I'm gonna fit in with all these superstars.
Look, Brad Pitt!
In the back, I think it's Alanis Morissette. Or it could be Mickey Rourke. Often I get those two confused.
The star of this year's prestigious Toronto Film Festival is Jiminy Glick.
Excuse me, can I help you?
Glick has been catapulted from showbiz obscurity to overnight media stardom.
You're looking like you're toning up.
I had my butt stapled.
He's turning Hollywood on its head. And a mystery.
I'm David Lynch. Well, who isn't there?
Inside Out.
A skull and dead bodies.
That was Andre's blow-up doll.
Anywho.
This is the first time you've done full frontal nudity.
It's about time, don't you think?
No, not really.
Martin Short and Martin Short.
Stupid fat Glick. What's to make love must be very ugly.
Hush now, Lumpy. Hush now. Sometimes, strange enough, when I'm choking, more food helps. I love the shallowness of it all.
Jiminy Glick in Lalawood.
Good to see you, Forrest. God bless you. The wonderful Forrest Gump.